At this point, you should feel pretty comfortable creating variables and then assigning data to those variables. Now that you have data, you need to work on that data, and you do this with operators. Now, you should be right at home with working with operators. C# comes with many different operators, but operators work differently depending on the types that they're working on. In fact, as you grow comfortable with C#, you can define your own operators to work with your own custom types. The first operator is the equal sign. This is called the assignment operator. In math, this denotes equality, whereas in C#, we are taking a value on the right-hand side and assigning it to the variable on the left. Thus, you can write an expression like this: x equals x plus 1. In a mathematical perspective, this makes no sense. X can never equal itself plus 1, but if you view the equal sign as an assignment, then what we are doing is adding 1 to x and then assigning the result of that addition back to x. This is such a common operation that we can shorthand it to x plus equal 1 or x minus equals 1. There's even a shorter syntax, such as x++, but stick with the plus equal for now. The shorter syntax can easily introduce confusion and bugs into your code. In fact, it's caused so many problems in the past, the operator was removed from the Swift language. That said, we'll be covering it when we cover looping, so don't worry, you're not missing out at all. Next, we have the addition operator. The good old-fashioned plus sign, that is. When it works between two numbers, it adds those numbers together, but frequently, you'll see it used between two strings. Can you guess what happens when you add two strings together? Well, that's right, it creates another string. You'll often see this when combining strings with other types as well. We use multiplication and division operators on numbers, as you would expect, but we also have the modulus operator. This returns the remainder of a division operation, dividing 7 by 5 with integer math, and you'd get the number 1 since 5 goes into 7 one time. Remember, integer math drops all floating point information. Now, if you did 7 modulus 5, you'd get 2, since there is 2 left over after you divide 7 by 5. A good thing to keep in mind when working with operators is the order of operations. Some operators have a higher precedence than other operators. Take the equation 5 plus 2 times 7. Now you may think the answer is 49. That is 5 plus 2 equals 7 times 7 equals 49, and well, that's incorrect. You multiply first and then you add, since multiplication has a high precedence. Thus the answer is calculated 7 times 2, which is 14, plus 5, which equals 19. When in doubt, use parentheses. Parentheses have a high precedence and will be calculated first. So if you wanted the answer to be 49, you would wrap the addition in the parentheses. Now, as a general rule, you should keep your equations small and spread them across variables. This makes them easier to understand. And when it comes to development, when you have hundreds of lines of code, clarity of intent is the most important.
There are a ton of operators in C#, and most of them are contextual. For the most part, you'll learn about them as you encounter them, but we'll cover some of the most common operators here. So here I have my solution open with program.cs opened as well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select this, and I'm just going to delete this as we've been doing throughout the episodes, and we'll start with some fresh code. So we'll create a variable called addition. And addition works exactly as you would expect it to work. We do 10 plus 20. Now remember, we're adding these two together and then we're assigning the result to addition. And this equal sign is the assignment operator. So if you're coming from a math background, definitely don't think of this as an equality operator. This simply assigns those values. Now you can see when we use a plus between two integers, that adds them together. We can also do the same on strings. So let's do a greeting, and we'll do a throwback to our first greeting. We'll do hello, that's one string, plus world, and that's another string. So we've just created two individual strings, added them together, and then assigned the result to greeting. Let's print this out. We'll do CW and tab it, and then just put in our greeting here. Now let's start without debugging. And you'll see that the hello world is combined into actually one word. Let's go back to Visual Studio. Well, this is actually a common error. Oftentimes we forget to put in spaces. So you could do something like this, or you could sometimes do something like this. You can create another string. So we can do plus space world like so. So now we have 3 strings. We have one that says hello, one that is an empty space, and one that says world. And now if we run it, you can see it properly displays hello world. Just a little note, when you're adding lots and lots of strings together, you don't want to be creating strings like this. You want to be using something known as a string builder. Strings essentially are unique objects. So when we have hello and world, these are both 2 unique strings. And if I create another string, say another greeting, and I do hello world, this is still a unique string. So the more strings you add, the more, as we say, expensive it gets in memory. So if you're doing lots of string additions, think about using the string builder class. When you're starting out, don't worry about it. Just something to keep aware of. Now we can add 2 variables together. So let's create a name. We'll call this Ray. And we'll create yet another greeting. We'll call this yet another greeting like so. And we'll use hello, and then we'll add the name. So what this does is it adds the name to the hello, so this will say hello Ray. Let's see this in action. So here we have hello Ray. We also can add our variables directly into the string itself. So let's do a console write line. And what I'm going to do is add a $sign before my string. And now what I'll do is I'll just type hello, and then I'll put this brace here, and I'll add the name like so. Then I'll close the brace. And this is what we call string interpolation. We're adding one string and putting it inside of another string like this. So you can do it like this way here, or you can build your strings like this. The end result is the same. Let's build and run. And you can see it says hello Ray like so. A lot of developers prefer this way of combining strings because when you have lots of variables going into one string, it becomes pretty clear how you are using those variables versus adding lots of pluses and quotation marks and so forth. Scrolling down, let's create a number. This is an integer, as you know, and we can add 10 to the integer by doing plus equals. This is pretty useful, but we can also do, say, multiply equals. Whereas the first one is the number equals number plus 10. This is the number equals number times 2. We can even do minus equals. And of course we have divide equals as well. Most of the time you'll see plus equals. And finally we have our modulus operator. Can you guess what the result of this is going to be? And how about this? Let's start without debugging, and you can see 0 to modulus 10 is 0 because there's nothing left over, whereas 3 modulus 10 is 1 because we have one remainder.
Operators are what we use to change our data, and like types, we can even create our own. So why not be a smooth operator and hit that like button to let us know that you found this video useful. Cheers!